Prominent author and critic of Islam, Ayaan Hirsi has pulled out of her scheduled visit to Australia due to security concerns. She was due to speak in Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney, but the organisation hosting her has been subject to threats and harassment for months. The organisation has said to the Australian newspaper that its insurance company had been contacted and had been warned that there would be trouble. The venues where Ayaan Hirsi was scheduled to speak at had also been contacted and threatened with trouble. The Australian newspaper has reported that much of this was done by an individual organisation described as the Council for the Prevention of Islamophobia. Speaking of accusations of Islamophobia, here is what a group of Australian Muslim women had to say about Hirsi planned visit.
Ayaan Hirsi, you do not speak for us.
How can you claim to stand for our liberation
when you simply repeat the language of our oppressors? This is not the language of solidarity or understanding or freedom.
This is the language of patriarchy and misogyny.
This is the language of white supremacy.
What is particularly jarring is hearing these Australian women with Australian accents, like me, accuse Hirsi of white supremacy. Women who live in white majority countries who enjoy protection under Western laws, democracy and human rights treaties, accusing a Somali-born refugee of white supremacy. Just let that sink in. Firstly, this video does not undermine any of Hirsi arguments. Her thesis is simple. Sharia law and its requirement of submission conflicts with Western law and Western traditions which protect human rights and individual liberty. None of these women disprove that simple argument or even come close. They simply attack her reputation with slander. Secondly, the rights that Australian Muslim women are not shared by women who live in Muslim majority countries. How hard is it to understand this? And thirdly, using the term white supremacy to silence a black woman is horrifying. It is the language of Black Lives Matter co-opted now by Islamists, and that should give us pause. If someone who is of Somalian origin can be accused of supporting white supremacy, then what chance does anyone else have of not being accused? A Somalian woman who has been subject to beatings, female genital mutilation, who has escaped an arranged marriage and who has had one close friend assassinated and who has had a fatwa against her for half of her life. Well, of course she has a phobia of Islam. Who wouldn't? Ayaan Hirsi has said that in Western societies, those who are on the left are in the grip of identity politics, and that this fascination with identity politics hasn't been created by Islamists, but they are now exploiting it. There is no question that this is true. The Western left are now teaming up with Islamists and are using accusations of bigotry to silence critics. And when councils for the prevention of Islamophobia physically threaten venues in a country like Australia, we should all be treating this as a wake-up call. I'm Claire Lehman for the Rebel Media. Please click on the link below to subscribe.